Hey, welcome to SeerNova SeerNova Podcast. I almost got there. Look at now. I'm like so worried about saying the name right. I'm messing up our own names. The SeerNova Podcast. What is this? Season 2, episode 17. And today we have. Oh man! See, now that I'm thinking about it, Dalibor Žujović. No, Žujović.
That's good, man. It's
there you go. Is it Itch? It's Žujović. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. And he's right. Indie hype man. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. This is like a perfect way to unwind after work. Let me tell you, I'm excited.
That's awesome.
No, that's good.
So before we get started, who are you and what do you do?
So I am a writer. I am a shameless self-promoter. I will tell anyone what I do at any opportunity, any breath that's available. I'll slide it in there. And I'm like I said, I'm most importantly, I'm the indie hype man. I just love talking about stuff that I love, and that has overwhelmingly become indie comics, novels, creators. Literally, this entire shelf behind me is indie graphic novels and comics. So it's a dedicated 25 cubes, and I'm almost out of space. And there is literally a stack of C2E2 books right next to me. So I may have to make some calls.
That's cool. Yeah, I have a ton, but like they're just in like these cloth boxes over there because I have nothing to really put anywhere yet.
Yeah, you look like you're in prison. Is everything all right?
Yeah. I get yard time, and I get 2 meals a day.
It's all that matters, right? It's all that matters.
So, yeah. What does it mean to be the self-proclaimed indie hype man?
I like promoting people. I actually started sort of right around 2020, even a little bit longer than that, honestly. So I just put this up. So it's kind of great timing. This is a banner that says "Write My Epic." That was kind of my original idea years ago. And this is kind of how my brain works. I start with this like macro idea first and then whittle it down to like what's feasible. I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create the steam of indie. Just indie though, right? It's going to be indie comics, indie music, indie game, like anything that is self-funded, self-created, not, part of some big company. That'll be where it goes. And then we can make like all the little connections. Like, oh, you like this indie comic book? Well, you might like this music. You might like this game, that's like where my brain started. And we sat down, we tried to plan it out, and we're like, this is going to take a lot of money and a lot of people and a lot of time. And I have none of those things. So in 2020, honestly, I was kind of sitting around doing nothing like we all were for reasons. And I was like, how can I do something now and do some promotion of independent creators without a big budget, without a big team? And I settled on this magazine that I do. It's called The Catalyst, thecatalyst.digital. Just actually dropped the 15th issue. So I've been doing it since mid-2020. Just literally, it's kind of like a mix of old wizard and heavy metal. So I have interviews with the creators and then also like the first issue or the first chapter of a book. And actually, I think in the first issue is where I found out about you guys. Ironically, it's like a full circle thing because I had gotten, I think it's Ink #1 through like an indie bundle. Like I was backing Kickstarters for years, and I was like, oh, Ink number. Like I was like, as I also do like a little review section in the magazine. So I was like, oh, let me like grab my digitals and see like what I like, and I just reviewed 6 books, and Ink #1 was one of them. And I was like, oh, this is dope. And I was like, where can you find more? So then I'm like looking, and I'm like, what is SeerNova? And like started just digging deep. And that was the first time I was exposed to your content, which was awesome. So like a cool little full circle moment. But yeah, I've been doing that for 15 issues now. It's a quarterly magazine. It's been about a year since the last issue though, because last year I moved. This is all new. So it's been a year, but I just put out the 15th issue.
That's super cool. That's kind of ironic because when we first started, our original goal was obviously to make comics, and then after I did a bunch of research into like what it took to make an indie comic. So Greg and I kind of met up. He's like, I got an idea to make comics. I'm like, okay, like I got to learn like what the heck's going on with this. And after doing a bunch of research, I realized like, wow, indie comic creators basically never make money. It's very, very, very rare.
Yeah.
In fact, the number one writer of horror comics in England was 40 plus years old, living in his mom's basement. And I was like, holy crap. And he was in debt. Like, so I like $4,000 or $40,000 in debt. And I was like, that's super interesting. So then I was like, why is this the case? And what we figured out was after you spend all the money to create the comic, you then have to spend more money to print each comic in order to get your money back. So that was when we decided we should go digital first. And so we started this process. We started working on our first comics. The first was the Seer Chronicles, which actually fell through because the artist we were working with wasn't a sequential artist. They were like they were good artists, but they just weren't a comic book artist.
Sure.
And so what happened was the other comic we had started was Ink. So Ink 1 was actually our first released comic, even though it wasn't the first one we started. So that's also very cool that you got that one as well. And then what ended up happening was once we realized how hard it was, I'm like, well, I could build a website for us, but it's going to be like one comic for now. Like there's no reason, like we're not going to be able to drive a lot of people there. I'm like, you know what would be helpful? I'm sure other creators haven't realized that, like, you know, they're working, making their comics thinking they're going to get big, that they haven't realized they're going to need like a fan base and all this other stuff. So what if we made a platform? We ended up building the SeerNova comic platform. And at one point we were hosting like well over 100 comics with a bunch of creators from around the world, like Argentina, Ireland, all over the US, Canada. And it was super cool. Cause like, that was like our goal. In fact, in order to make our universe, like the thing that we wanted in our comics was what's it called? Like consistency. That was the thing I don't like about Marvel is the lack of consistency in their comics. They break a bunch of different rules, and the way that they get around it is like, oh, that was from a different universe, right? Like they just make up stuff now. So I wanted to make a hyper consistent universe. So at one point I asked Greg, I go, do we know anybody who can like do, 3D modeling, and maybe we can get a 3D model of our city. And that way we could take pictures of it for the artists. And we ended up having our game. The guy who did it, it turns out he built it in Unity. And so we started thinking about, oh, we could build a video game out of this. And what we did was we were like, oh, we could make a movie theater in there and show indie films. We could have a car radio like they do in Grand Theft Auto and put indie music on there. So we had this huge grandiose thing as well. We ended up running our first, I think it was Kickstarter actually. It was the first failed Kickstarter where we put something crazy like $15,000, something nuts. And yeah, totally bombed that campaign because there was too many things we were trying to do. Similar to what you noticed, you're like, it's like, yeah, there's just so much going on. Like, I don't know if we can really pull that off. And so at least not in the time that we were trying to do it.
Right.
So over the last year, we ended up taking down the platform because now we have 10 comics ourselves. And now what we're trying to do is build our publishing company so that we can actually get distribution, get various things like that, and then start bringing people on board again. Because we realized it's kind of like the 7 habits. It's like you have to first get good yourself, then you can help other people, put your mask on before you help others. Right. So that's kind of what happened with us was we realized we were spreading ourselves so thin trying to run this platform while trying to promote our comic, while trying to create our comic. And we're like, that's just not going to, like, no one's going to get a good benefit from this. So we paused all that, focused on our stuff. And now we've got a really clean website that runs way faster and a bunch of other stuff that we've been building over the last couple of years. And during COVID, the thing that we decided to do to still be involved in trying to grow the indie community was start our virtual expo. So like that was like the big thing for us. That's super cool that we were one of the first people you ran into and that you kind of had a similar mission as well, which is awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like meeting like-minded people in the space as well, because I've definitely met people in the indie space that are kind of like, they're doing their thing. They're not like really looking to like network. They're not really looking to like do anything collaborative. And it's like, if you can promote them, that's great. They'll jump on the podcast kind of thing. Like I've featured people in the magazine who then like immediately unfriended me, unfollowed me. Like as soon as it was done, they like unfollow me. And I'm like, oh, that's that's weird. It's like a weird approach. Like
yeah, I feel like that's probably the difference between indie publishers and indie comic creators. There's probably some indie comic creators, they just want to make their comic. They're not trying to be part of a community, where for us, we have like tons of worlds we want to build. We want to help other people build their worlds. I think that's probably a distinction, is that we're looking to actually continuously publish comics for as long as we can think of ideas, where some people have like an idea. They're like, I want this thing out in the world.
Right.
But it's funny because I think that the ones that partner together, work together, grow together, learn together are probably the ones that are going to win long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, some of the biggest names in the space are like partnerships or like smaller groups that there's 3 or 4 people involved and it's this big thing. Some of the biggest names I see regularly at conventions, and I'm like, man, it's like the same 4 people every time. It's not like they just hired some booth people. Like, this is the 4 people that run this. There's a local group, Unshaven Comics in Chicago. It's like the same 4 dudes. Like, they're 4 friends from years ago. They had for years the guy at the booth would hold up a sign that says, let me tell you about my comic. And the first time I talked to them, I was like, do you have a trade? Because I collect trades. And they're like, not yet. And I was like, all right, cool. And then every time I'd see him at a show, whether it be C2E2 or Wizard, they'd be like, oh, let me tell you about my comic. And I'm like, do you have a trade yet? He's like, no. I'm like, I'll see you then. And then we just kind of kept playing that little game until they were like, yes. And I'm like, let's talk.
The irony is the first comic you saw of ours was Ink, and the first trade that we're going to be working on is Ink.
Fantastic. I love to hear that.
And it's also funny because we were supposed to finish the Seer Chronicles, which was our first comic. We were supposed to finish that 3rd one before we finished the 3rd one of Ink, and instead Ink beat out the first issue and all the other issues. And so that's the one that's going to be turned into a trade first. And then I think our next one's probably going to be Mittens, I would assume. Mittens or the Chronicles of Horror.
Both.
No, I'm saying which one would be next.
Mittens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I just looked up these the Unshaven Comics guys. I can picture that. I can see. Yeah. Oh, actually, there's a picture on their website. Can I tell you about our comic book?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like a cool, like sci-fi futuristic, like Power Ranger kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, the sales pitch is there. I'm like, you've got the guy. Like, literally, I'm the guy. Like, I got the Megazord right next to me. So like, you've got the audience. I'm like, but I just needed to be a trade. Like, that was the only requirement. And yeah, it probably took a few years, but they put out the necessary issues. They were consistent with it. That's the big thing. And they put the whole thing out. And then they're like, all right, the next thing is this kind of bigger thing. I'm like, all right, bet. Like, I'm bought into the universe now. I want to know what's next. That's the best part about reading indie comics, is when you really sell me on it. When I'm done and I'm like, what's next? I want more.
It's kind of funny too, because one of the big issues that we came across was after we had a few comics made, we went to reach out to comic book shops, and it was struggling to kind of get in touch with them. Not a lot of them were responding. And one of the big things that we learned was that apparently the majority of comic book shops that are willing to actually put indie comics on their shelves want at least 3 issues, which is also typically the minimum for a trade. So it's kind of that idea where we ended up going like issues 1, 1, 1, 1, and then 2, 2, 2, 2. So now this particular year and next year, we're finishing up our 3rd issues on like 4 different comics. And so because of that, we're going to end up having a bunch of trades coming out in the next, like, probably 2 to 3 years. So it's pretty awesome.
It's an interesting process, because I was literally at the beginning of C2E2. After the first day, I was talking to Jibba Anderson, who is another creator, educator, and all this stuff. We were talking about kind of like that approach, is that people do this like wide thing. They do like, oh, we want to create a multiverse. They want to create all these books. And like, it seems to hinder a lot of people. Like, it hinders their growth at the speed at which they can grow. And I was like, I'm like, that's very true. But except for Johnny Avina, Avina Comics, like, he's got the money. He like reached the right artist, because then that artist was like, hey, I know a bunch of other artists that like need work. And he was like, bet, I've got other ideas. So then he was like, number one of this. Like he started, I want to say November 2022. And by August of 23, he had one issue, November 2022. By August of 23, he had 3 number ones, a number 2, and 1 number 3. And I was like number 3 was launching that weekend. And I was like, John, I'm gonna need you to slow down. You gotta let some of these people catch up, brother. Like that's like you're killing it right now. Like, and that's great. That's great. I love that. But like, you gotta let people breathe a little bit. But yeah, he's about to drop he actually, I think, just dropped the trade. So I picked it up at the show. It's in the stack.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a girl, Carissa Grant, and she's
I love Carissa. She's dope.
She's just the same. She's
killing it. She's killing it. Although she, her own words, because she said this on my show, don't do it like me. She said, don't do it like me. She put herself into heavy debt.
Yeah.
And that's bold. But I'll tell you what, if it works and you get the audience, and like, you can't argue she's got the audience. It's hitting every time. There's no like, oh, maybe it won't make it. It's funded in 2-3 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you just saw the one she has one running now that's like killing it. Yeah. And the thing that I was suggesting to her as well was she actually holds it doesn't hold one. She has more Donald Duck collectibles than the Guinness Book of World Record holder by almost double.
Oh, that's an interesting factoid. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what I told her was, after she crushes out all these comics, especially because she mentioned to us too that she's like just throwing in debt, and I was like, then what you should do then is do it strategically. And after you get all of these comics done, after they're like the trades are done, after you've finished at least this huge chunk of story, you should end up submitting to the Guinness World Records for your collection to get a small window into like fame and use that to actually try to jump on this. And the funny thing is, you got stuff like, what was it? The Mickey Mouse license, was it?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm not sure, but Donald Duck, I think, was newer, right? Like Donald Duck was after.
Yeah. But it's not too long. I think maybe a few more years.
Exactly. And so the whole thing is like, she's got like, it would be this really cool like overlap of time for her to kind of like go out and be like, I have all these collectibles of this IP that's finally run out. Like it's these are the classics under the original IP. And by the way, I happen to be a comic book creator with like 1,000 comics.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like she's like on a monthly schedule, and that's crazy. Like to have this much material just raring to go, and have like she's got people like books lined up. She's like, oh, this is already done. I'm running the Kickstarter for that in 2 months, and I'm like, yo, I need you to chill.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, Night Watch is live. She's like, I'm live too. I'm like, no shit.
I was gonna say, it's like, is it a month of the year? And it's like, okay, so she's live.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it's like a third. She's like, well, I'm running one campaign, I'm fulfilling another campaign, prepping a third one. It's like, okay, if you got it like that.
How important do you think self-promotion is now, like, with social media and like just the creator economy now?
The most. It's the most important. More important than the quality of your book, your promotion is the most important thing. I think I walked into 2020 thinking like, you know what, I'm pretty connected. I know like a bunch of creators. I'm good on this indie comic scene. And then we're at home and I'm scrolling and I'm on Instagram and I'm like, I've never heard of this thing. How have I never heard of this creator? How have I never heard of this book? They're on how many issues? Like, where are these people coming from? So I'm like, oh man, that's crazy. I thought I was in. I had barely a toe on the beach. I wasn't even in the water yet. And then now I'm like, I'm swimming. I'm in here. And I turn around and I'm like, there's a whole ocean? Like, like I just keep turning around. There's so many people. I was at the Wisconsin show, MightyCon, a few weeks back, and a bunch of people that I've never heard of. And I'm like, they're on issue 4 or 5. They're on their 5th book. And I'm like, what? How? And it's like, because there's no promotion, they're localized. And I've seen stuff where in Wisconsin, there are people who are on the shelf there's I forget the name of the comic shop that I went to. It's like a dope little strip in New Berlin. It's literally like a collectible shop, a ton of toys and stuff, a comic shop, and then like the science surplus. Like that's the strip. That's the whole strip. I'm like, it's the nerdiest strip in existence. What are you talking about? This is amazing. And it's like the toy shop is like Transformers, GI, like everything you could think of is in there. And I'm like, this is like a weekly gamut. If I lived nearby, like if this wasn't an hour and a half drive, weekly. I'm here weekly. And but that shop in there, they have like local, like small indie press kind of stuff. And had I not just been at the show talking to those companies, I wouldn't have known who those people were. Because like I'm like, oh, they're like, I just met them, but they're on the shelf here. But like nowhere else knows about them. You know?
Yeah, that's huge. We went to IC3. Yeah. We went to IC3, which is the Indie Comic Creator Con. I think that's the right order. And basically, like Greg and I know tons and tons of independent creators. And then we went to this convention, and I knew 2 people there. Greg thinks he knows 7 that were there, and there was over 175 independent creators that were there. And so I went around the entire time collecting business cards. These are most of them. I got another pile over there somewhere. But yeah, there was like tons and tons of people that have incredible works that I just never heard of because they're localized to where they are. And it's super cool when you come across that. And the other fun thing I like to do is I like to find out like, oh, how did they promote themselves when they go to conventions? Because they're a small, like they don't go to only independent Comic Cons, like they're going to regular ones that are maybe in their area. Like how do they stand out next to maybe comic shops or toy stores and stuff like that? And so it's super cool going around just seeing like the different layouts, the different stands, the different setups. It was incredible.
Yeah. I mean, like at C2E2, it's a big show. I would expect sort of like the biggest names to be there. And every year, without fail, there's people who I've never seen, people who I've never met before. Literally, and it's like they also get places in like weird spots, not even necessarily Artist Alley. That's why like there's like a drive to be like, oh, I just want to do Artist Alley at the show. But like people get a booth. People get like an author's block. There's a writer's block section right at the front of the show. There's like other little spots where you're going to have space. And you're going to be a small indie creator. Like there was like a big, I want to say like a Gunpla, like, Gundam stuff, huge booth. And then I'm like walking by and there's just this much space, like the space, like if you spread your arms, you knock over the whole display. Like that's how much space was just to walk in. And there was like a table there. And I was like, oh, wow. Like if I had been looking this way, I would have missed it because it would have been 2 steps and gone. And we had like a great chat, and we were talking about like Avatar: The Last Airbender, and my man just gives us 2 prints. We're like, what? Like, what's happening right now? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you're just giving me prints? What's happening? And he's just there, and he's like got 2 books, and he's like getting ready to publish, and he's showing us like whole 11 by 17 pages in the book. I'm like, damn, like this man is working, and we've never heard of him. I would have, if I was facing 45 degrees the other direction, I would have missed it.
That's crazy.
Do you have any tips on like for creators on how to promote themselves?
I mean, like connection is the biggest thing. Like you're going to be able to stand out in a room of people, but you need to get in that room first, right? Everyone has their own story. Everyone has their own approach. Like I've seen people who do the same thing at the con, but they do it differently. And it's like, all right, cool. Like, give me your perspective. But you got to get in that space first. So podcasts like this, like, again, shameless self-promoter, thecatalyst.digital. Like, it's just like making these connections with people who are gonna ride for you. I mean, that's the thing is like, Johnny Avina, like he's dope. He's a cool dude. He's got, great family, like produces great work, just like a fun guy. And then he spends all his time promoting like that he has, like every second that he has. And he's like, oh, I've got orders. I'm going to make content out of making these orders. Like everything you can do, like TikTok is huge, especially if you can get a TikTok shop. That's that's massive. Like Danny J. Quick from Fourth Wall. Like he's killing it on the TikTok shop. And I mean, like I talked to him and he said he was like X point before TikTok shop, making 3-4 orders a day. And then it was like 9-10 orders a day. Like that matters. That maths up. Like you double, triple your numbers. They don't have to be big numbers, but you still triple your numbers.
Well, not only that, with every sale that you make, you're getting new potential like return clients and customers too, where it's like if they buy this one and then you announce there's another one, you've potentially built up a fandom.
Yeah. And then I'm also actually, I just announced this in the new issue. I'm going to be going through my area, and I'm also like, aside from all this comic book stuff, I also do a travel series where I'm visiting the whole country. And one of the like little side quests at every stop is in every state, I'm going to hit a comic shop or two. And I'm creating a little questionnaire to as like impartially as I can. It's just like a yes or no kind of questions to see if they're going to make the indie hype man approved list of comic shops. And it's not to say that, people who don't make the list are bad shops. It's just they're not necessarily good for indie. Because I've been to a lot of shops where they're like, oh yeah, like the indie stuff is just like in with the rest of the books. And I'm like, I mean, okay, that's not really helpful. That means I got to look through 5 walls of books to find something. Whereas I'm like, hey, do you have anything small press? Because like that's the other thing. Some people have like just a small press section. They don't have an indie section. So like people call it different things. So I'm gonna try to like rate them on a fair scale, and then promote like, hey, if they're open to like commit like consignment, like you could just bring books to them and they'll sell them for you and you guys split the money kind of thing. Like those are important little methods, because I've found so many dope books just like on shelves at shops, like even from people that are practically like the biggest names in the industry. I'm like, how did I never hear about this book coming out? And it's just like on a little clearance shelf in the back aisle kind of thing. And I'm like, that's where I always go. I always go to like the little corner shelves. I'm like, what's here? What's not on the main shelf? But not everyone is like me. Some people just need it to be on the shelf. So I prefer a prominent spot. I was in Ohio a few months back, and then just randomly picked one of the shops that was near. And I walked in, middle of the shop, right next to the register, like a 4-stack wire shelf, says like small press books and just a bunch. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Like, this is perfect. I picked up a book where honestly, even when I reviewed it, I'm like, the art is not good. Like 100%, I do not like the art. But I'm like, but the fact is, it's a trade. That means you put the work in. You put a whole book together. I'm reading it. I'm giving it a chance, regardless of the art. Because my personal opinion is, I'm willing to sort of apologize away a lot of art issues if the story is engaging. I'm a man who enjoyed Madam Web. I'll say it. I'm saying it on the internet. Technically speaking, that is a terrible movie. We can discuss all the problems it has freely, but the story was engaging. I was in. I was sold. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's all that matters at the end of the day. If I'm going to enjoy myself, that's all that matters. I
was gonna say that's true in like any medium, like even music. It's like there's artists that aren't that good of singers, but they're such great storytellers that's what you kind of fall for. It's like tons of bands in like the 60s, 70s, 80s had like okay singers compared to like, the incredible singers of today. And it's mostly because they were incredible storytellers. That's a huge
100%. 100%. Now, great art will not salvage a bad story. So number one is tell a good story. That's always going to be the number one.
Yeah.
We had this like recurring guest on our podcast. He literally like that was his topic that he talked about like a couple episodes ago. Ed Jowett was like, the story matters. So like, tell a good story.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's what you're going to be telling people about. You're not going to be telling, oh, there was this dope splash page. You fucking care. Like, that's not, it's hard to describe. You have to have the thing to show it. Whereas like, oh, there's this great story and there's this like awesome twist. And like, that's the thing. Like Twisted Comics, Neil Gibson, like great dude. He's been putting stuff out for years. He's on, I think, 8 volumes of Twisted Dark. He's got The Theory. He's got a bunch of standalones. But like Twisted Dark is a kind of like a Tales of the Crypt kind of thing, where all these short stories all have some sort of psychological twist to them. And I remember, probably a decade ago at this point, probably the first time I met him, I read, his like challenge at the show is read the first 2 stories. It's like 8 pages worth of comic and tell me you don't want to buy it. And literally he has a sign up. It says like sign up. If they buy it, they'll put their name down. And the 3 names at C2E2, 3 days, massive show, tons of visitation, 3 names on the pass list. 3 people were able to put it down after reading the first 2 stories. So it's like the book, like the stories are good. Is the art like top tier? No, like it's okay. Like it's okay art, but the story is so strong. He's been able to have this 8-volume deep series. And now he's put himself in a position where he reached out to Netflix and is now creating the Black Mirror comic book.
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
The official adaptation, which is like, he started by making just short little stories with like decent art, but they're so good. And they know he understands the storytelling of it because he's and the consistency and like being able to put all the stuff out. Like it matters. It absolutely matters. Because like I said before, you could have Joe Madureira do your book, you could have Jim Lee do your book, but if the story sucks ass, the story still sucks ass.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even like cartoons and stuff like that. There's cartoons that look weird, but like they have interesting stories. That captivate you, and it's like, I think that's a really important.
No matter what anyone says, Adventure Time looks like shit. I'll be honest. Adventure Time looks like garbage.
Hilarious.
It's such one of the biggest one of the most popular cartoons of all.
That's hilarious. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but that was the first one that came to mind when I thought about that. Was like, it's like cheesy, very childish art, but there's an incredible story in there, which is weird. It's like, so because of that, you eventually get lost in it, and the art actually gets better. It's kind of like
it enamors you.
Yeah, if you tell somebody that wine's more expensive, it tastes better. Literally,
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Like it's the same with like stories. Like if the story's good enough, you forget that. That's why those old video games for N64 with like the triangle faces, you forget. Like your brain remembers that as like real life. Like, dude, like your brain is like, wow, yeah, Link looked perfect. Like,
have you seen in recent years? Have you seen shots of the original Final Fantasy VII?
They're all all
horrible. I watched it. I was like, we played this. There's 7 discs of this. Like, how did people play this for so many hours? But it's like the story is so damn engaging that like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or Ocarina of Time is like my favorite Zelda game, and I still think it's like it looks amazing
because it connects in your brain. Like I'm one of my favorite anime of all time. I'm not a big anime watcher, but like I have my favorites. Ronin Warriors, originally called Samurai Troopers, fantastic series in my opinion. You watch it now, if you sit back and just like observe it, it's kind of like slow animation. I mean, it was made in the 70s. Like it's not a great looking series, especially compared to like modern stuff. But like, I love the story. I fell in love with it as a kid, so that nostalgia is always locked in. Like, it doesn't matter. I rewatched before X-Men 97 came on. I rewatched the entirety of the original series, and literally episode 1, there's like just animation like issues. Like there's a shot with Sentinel shoots a beam from the hand, and you can see the like extra thing they taped on top of the one frame to show the laser. And I'm like, oh wow, I don't remember this being this bad. Like this is bad.
I don't know if that's the X-Men I'm thinking of, but I believe that like either the first season of it or like the first few episodes, I remember learning something about the fact that they were like completely messed up and they had to come back and do it. They updated the theme song and everything. Like there's a bunch of stuff that was wrong when they first started, but they were trying to like rig shot together.
Yeah, for sure. The first season, I want to say the first studio they had was just like taking forever. So they had to like go to a different studio, but like, hey, we need this like to happen. Like we're trying to make this show happen.
Just tape. You just put tape on.
Yeah, like you can like if you pause it enough, I'm sure you can see the tape. Like it's so there's just shots that are just atrociously bad from like a technical standpoint.
That's
but like
fun.
it didn't matter because it's like
because
exactly that washes away the whole thing, right?
I remember watching like a docu-mini or whatever on that particular song, like how they put that together and stuff.
Yeah.
And how like intense that was for like a kid's morning cartoon. Like it was like crazy.
I will stand on this 10 toes until I die. The 90s had the best theme songs. 90s cartoons had the absolute best theme songs.
They had to because it's kind of funny. It's like a hook in TikTok videos. It's the thing that if you didn't like it, you just walked away before the cartoon started. You're a kid. You needed to be like, yeah, like get jacked up by it. And it's like that's exactly.
And in the modern era, you can skip it, so it's less important.
Yeah.
So it's like you could just skip it. You don't have to watch it on time. You don't have to be there at 6 a.m. to catch the episode. Like I fell in love with like Sailor Moon. Like Sailor Moon is a great show from the 90s, but like you had to catch that at the time because like on my local stuff it was like a 7 a.m. thing. So like I had to catch it before I went to school. Like it was a weird timing thing, but like if you liked it, you had to do it.
It's funny too because I even remember having to like miss if I missed the intro theme song that sucked. Like it was cool to know like yeah I'm getting like that just made me think of it was a Dragon Ball Z. They actually had a really dope intro song, but it turns out they like stole it or something. So if you watch it now, the theme song's totally different. But like the original one was something like Dragon, hunt the dragon. It's like it's awesome.
Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, dude.
Power
Rangers. Put on Mighty Max. I don't know. A lot of people don't know Mighty Max. Mighty Max. What the guitar riff on that intro is incredible. Jeez. And also one of the most like concise single season cartoons of all time. It like loops narratively and it literally restarts. It's like built for syndication. It's incredible.
I think I have like an old McDonald's toy of that show. Like it was like this like little contraption. I think it's at my dad's house. Like I remember his basement got flooded, so I had to go through a bunch of old stuff. And I remember finding this thing, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I'm like, I forgot that was the show.
Yeah, that was another one where like the art was great.
But
like,
I love the art.
If you sit back and just look at it, like there's Talking Bird on that show. Talking Bird on that show. That's like that's one of the main characters. Like
you were talking about going to comic book stores and stuff and finding indie comics, and that for some reason reminded me that I had a business card that's been in my wallet for almost 4 years.
Oh wow!
And it's a comic book store that's in Burlington, Vermont. And I went in there, but the manager wasn't there at the time. And now we have to reach out to them. But it's like 4 years later. But there's like White Ash. There's so many people that I know that have comics in there. I'm like, oh my God. Like I know all these people. And then my friends are like, really? I'm like, yeah, I know like all these people. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll put your comics in here. I'm like, we have a platform of people. We could like just put all these people in there. And like, oh yeah, like just got a call when the manager's actually here. I'm like, oh, okay. So that store is really cool.
That's the best stuff, man. When they're like welcoming to the indie scene. I found like randomly walked into what I thought was just gonna be another comic shop, but turns out it's like this really quirky bookstore in Chicago. It's called Quimby's Books, and immediately I'm like, oh okay, like all right, I get it. Reference, I'm with it. And I walk in and it is not at all what I was expecting. It's just like almost exclusively like small press, like we're talking staple bound, home printed kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I was like overwhelmed because I'm just like, I don't know what to choose. Like all this, because I know all this stuff is like deeply personal. And I'm like, I don't know where I want like to be led tonight with what I'm picking up. So I actually found like a traditional kind of comic, and it was Meta Barons. But then I flipped to the back, and it was like it's part of a big ass universe. I'm gonna go some more in debt for that. Apparently,
it's awesome. I was just remembering it was one of the white ones. I can't remember. Yeah,
I do remember those.
Yeah,
oh, that's a deep cut.
Yeah, that's why when you mentioned it, I was like, damn, I totally forgot. I have a picture of it somewhere, but I remember finding the toy and going, holy crap. Like,
I do not remember this show.
Mighty Max, you might not have saw it. It was
Great show. Kid had a hat, open wormholes.
Yeah, this right here.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think I literally like look a couple years back. I like looked into it to see about who held the rights because I was like, I'd make an updated version of this. I'd make a refresh. You know, let's see what Max is up to in college. He still got the hat. Let's see what's going on. You know, I even did a little like redesign. I called it Mighty Max 2099.
Nice.
There's a TikToker, but he used to be an actor, but he's not like an actor really anymore. He's one of the Three Ninjas.
Oh yeah, Mike. Yeah, he's dope.
And I did comment because he's like, yeah, what if like we brought like Three Ninjas back and like we're older because like everybody's starting to do that, like Cobra Kai and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how about a comic book? But he didn't say anything to that. But I was like, I would totally do like a comic series of that.
100%. 100%. I think there's definitely, I mean, especially now with sort of nostalgia being really, really heavy. I mean, it's kind of has been for a long time. I mean, I'd say kind of the mid 2000s, like 2007's Transformers, like that movie's made $1 billion or whatever because of nostalgia. Like,
yeah,
if we're keeping it $1.50 for inflation, that movie's not great, but I love that fucking movie. Like, I love that fucking movie.
Big robot smash stuff. I forgot about Three Ninjas. I was looking them up.
Oh.
I just can never forget that the one movie was called Three Ninjas Kickback, and I always thought that was funny.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix, I think.
That's awesome.
On Tubi, there's one of them. I think it's Knuckle Up.
Knuckle Up. There's that one too. That's right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, the Kickback one I think is on Netflix because I just saw that in like the feed when I was scrolling.
So there's so many questions I can still ask, but I'm only gonna like say like one more. Why does indie matter now more than ever?
Ooh, that's strong. That's a good question. That is a great question. I think right now, indie comics are the most important because one of the issues, and this is going to get a little deep, and I apologize, but I think one of the biggest issues we have in society is that we don't know each other. We don't understand each other. I was just talking to a friend of mine about this. She was saying that, she's like, I don't know that I need to write my story. I was like, she's like, oh, there's other people who are just like me that have had like pretty much the same experience. I'm like, but they're not you. That's the thing. They're not the same experience. You know, like the exact specific circumstances of where you were and where you are now, that story matters. And the lessons you've learned, the way you've learned them, those can't be interchanged. You can't just take someone else's life and be like, all right, that's how I grew up. But that's not how that works. You have your own memories, you have your own experiences. So I always talk to my cousin. We talk about kind of everyone has different privilege, but like I grew up an only child. So like I have a lot of self-reliance, like I learned to cook very early in my life. Like my mother was always working, like pretty much since we moved to America, she had like 2-3 jobs and going to school, and she was a rock star. She was kicking ass. But like I was by myself. So I had to entertain myself. So I had to make sure I got my stuff done. So like I have a lot of self-reliance kind of stuff. He had a sibling, so he had someone to play with all the time. So like we have different experiences. Like we're both from Bosnia. We're both immigrants. We both have a similar story. We're both similar in age. He was allowed to go out and hang out with his friends because my mother was a little more paranoid, watch the news a lot. I wasn't. So like I was stay at home. I didn't have that many friends in high school. He was out. He had friends. He was like had to cower early. Like we have different stories, but we're like, if you were just like put us down on paper, like we're practically the same dude, but we're not even a little bit. So like knowing what we are and understanding each other's stories and each other's perspectives is super, super important right now. And I think that's why independent is the most important thing right now in comics, because that's what's going to get us to that table. Marvel's not going to sit down and talk to us about their experience because it doesn't matter. You know, Ed Brubaker gets X-Men. You know, Gail Simone on Uncanny right now. Gail Simone is not telling us her story. There's editorial mandates and all these things, like we need to get them to here, and then we need a synergy, corporate, and MCU. There's so many other factors that prevent sort of an honest story from being told. No, don't get me wrong. I love X-Men. I'm X-Men ride or die. This is the mainstream section is over here. It's massive. Don't get me wrong. I love X-Men. But like the best stories are going to come from people who do not have restrictions from outside forces. We're going to be able to tell their story honestly. And yeah, you know, maybe it's through elves and fucking knights and shit, but like it's your story, right? It's the perspectives you have, the lessons you've learned, and how you want to impart them. And that everyone is unique in that way. So having someone who is you know, one nationality and one faith versus another, those both matter because we need to learn about each other, because we need to know what we all need. I need to know what you guys require from the community. And then that can inform what you need more out of the society that we're in, you know? So that we all kind of, when the important stuff happens, when we're at the polls, hey, maybe we don't vote for monsters. Like, yeah, I just think that there's the indie space allows for that freedom. I've seen the most variety in the indie space. You know, there's trends and stuff like that, but you get to the honesty of it, right? Some people start there. You know, I had Anthony Donovan. He's dope. He did Decay. That was his first book. But then right after that, he did a deeply like psychological book. The homies over at Deep Theory, the box is right up there. They did like a really crazy first issue of Deep Theory Presents, and it's like aliens and like origin of life kind of stuff, like really cerebral stuff. The second issue is deeply personal. One of the creators has sleep paralysis, so they're working on that right now. It's going to come out. So like the second issue is about sleep paralysis. So like there's all these stories that like I don't understand sleep paralysis. Like we talked about it, but like seeing it presented in a way that like I can kind of take my time with it and absorb it, that's important.
Yeah. There's Afterlight Comics. They're a horror publisher, and they have like a little series, like a limited series called Stay Awake, and that is sleep paralysis. I don't know if he has that. I don't remember if he mentioned that he has that, but like that's literally about that. So but yeah, I totally get the whole like telling your own story and stuff. Kind of shamelessly plugging Night Watch. So Night Watch, Kenny Quinn, which is based off of me if I was an MMA fighter /
vigilante at night.
So his best friend dies, and he's trying to avenge his best friend. My best friend Ryan didn't die, but in the comic, there's his name is James, and I did have a friend named James in high school, but it's just the name that I took. He's still alive.
That's good.
But I did have a friend when I moved to Rotterdam, New York, and she was my first friend, and I was like babysat by her mom and her grandma, mostly just her mom because her grandma was too busy with her arts and crafts. She was murdered by her like ex-boyfriend. So I took that, and it's like that's not going to be the same story that's in the comic, but like I'm like, oh well, I have felt that, I know how that feels, so that's in Night Watch. Then there's a character on her banner that's at Comic-Cons. He has yet to have a comic yet, but he's like one of the coolest characters. He's our like Green Arrow character, Cypher. That story she is in because I have the power to keep her alive. So she is in that story. And Cypher's character kind of like punishes her ex-boyfriend. So yeah, I am able to tell that stuff without, because murder is wrong. But like if I write it, then
I feel you.
Yeah. So
no, that's what I'm saying. So like you're sharing like an important part of your history, your important part of your story, and you're sharing it in a way that honors your friend who passed and honors the legacy, and sort of like also allows you to express that those elements of yourself that, let's say, society wouldn't look too kindly upon if you were to execute them in real life.
Exactly. So,
because some punishments are against the law.
This made me think of what was it? There's like crazy stories in Russia where like some person who did a heinous crime is found having stabbed themselves 126 times, and it's like, yeah, oh, that's weird. very, very dedicated to his task.
to have had so much energy to do it himself so many times.
Yeah, that's definitely I think that the other thing you mentioned too about telling your own story and how like your friend said like, well, I'm sure other people kind of have this experience. It's like, you're right though. It's like your story from your perspective with your other variables in life. Like the fact that you and your friend might be from the same country, but it's like, yes, but then you had different experiences, and those experiences make everything else different. And it's like, and this is true in every single medium, music, film, comics, sharing like your unique story, even like unrelated to the comics themselves, like as a creator, like people knowing your unique story makes you more interesting. It makes me want to consume whatever that is. Like if I know an artist's backstory and then I hear their songs, I'm going to think differently about their songs, and because of that I may be
100%.
And it's the same with comics. Like if I know your background, even if that's not what you're showing in the actual comic, there's some part of that that's going to get put there. So that's why it's cool. Like if you work with like indie, if you're an indie creator or writer and you work with artists, it's also good to kind of communicate with them, like what's their story, because their art's also going to resemble that. So it's very cool to kind of like pull this stuff out, which is why it's cool that you're really working on connecting independent creators, because it is those joint stories that really make these unique experiences of independent comics.
100%. Yeah, I like that. What you use there as an example, like the artists kind of having their tales in their work. Certain stuff people aren't going to address directly, but then when you see them address it elsewhere. So like I read the autobiography of DMX, right? It's called Earl. I'm a big fan of DMX's work. After I read that, my perspective on his work changed. How I listened to his music changed, because I am not a black man from New York, obviously, but he also grew up essentially raised by his grandmother, and his mother was always out and his father wasn't in the picture. And I'm like, that relates me to that story. So immediately I found myself in a place of understanding on like the things he had to do to survive and to get to where he got. I found an understanding in those things. It's a completely different life, obviously, but you still find those things to relate to. That's why when the infamous Oscar slap happened, my wife calls me because she was watching. I don't really watch stuff like that, so I was kind of like, whatever. I had just like literally 2 or 3 days earlier finished listening to Will Smith's autobiography, because I like listening to people's autobiographies. And she's like, he just slapped Chris Rock. And I was like, what? No, he didn't. And then I'm like, found it because they had already like edited it. Like they had already cut it off the air. And I'm like, well, let me check YouTube. YouTube's got it. And I see it. And I'm like, damn, he slapped their shit out of him. And I was like, that tracks. Like I saw the whole scene, everything that happened, and I had just finished listening to his life story from his own mouth. And I was like, yeah, I see how this happened. Like I see exactly how we got here. And had I not listened to that book, I would not have had that perspective. Because I'm a Will Smith fan, but I told people before, I'm like, if I found out he was, doing some heinous shit, like I'd light him on fire myself. I don't I'm not standing for people through horrible shit. I'm like, well, like that was like a bad mental health moment. That was a horrible way to deal with some mental health shit. And like, yeah, he shouldn't have hit him. He should have had a conversation with him behind the scenes. but I understand where it came from because I know his story.
Yeah, that's definitely a big deal. Like being able to know what someone's thinking like that. I've listened to a few autobiographies as well. One of my favorite ones, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like that one's a huge one. Just understanding like the whole controversy that happened after he got out of office and a bunch of other stuff was going on. And it's like, oh, like now I know why that happened. Like what led to that, like all this other stuff that makes it like, oh yeah, he's also just a person. And I think that's the reason why Disney, with a lot of their films, where they're like, what if we just like throw stuff in there to make sure that everyone's represented? It's like, no, the story is the part that people feel represented by, right? Like I'm pretty sure there's not a person on earth who watches Goku who's like, oh, I wish he looked more like me. It's like, no, like you're like, I want to be a Super Saiyan too. Like that's it. Like you're not thinking about what they look like. It's the story, right? The fact that he was an abandoned orphan kind of thing. Like the fact that, you know, he feels different than everybody else. Like that's the stuff in Dragon Ball that you're like, wow, like maybe I'm like that. And then what's it called? If you listen to old rap songs, like tons of them reference comic books for that exact reason. They were stuck in this world and they're reading about superheroes while they're poor and broke and getting beaten by some, drunk parent or something like that. And they're escaping through their comic books because they're like, maybe I'm that hero. I have this stuff that I'm going through too. That's why like Spider-Man's one of everyone's favorite comics. It's this kid getting bullied in school, and yet he's this, he ends up becoming this great superhero. And it's like that's the hero's journey. People love that. So redemption arcs, all these different story plots that are just told through different lenses that then I can map my reality onto.
100%. Yeah, it matters deeply. Yeah, the hip hop comic book like pipeline is very, very strong. I've started a series where I talk about references of comics in hip hop, and now I've seen other people do the same thing. And because it's prevalent, and it's like stuff you don't even think about until you like listen to it again years later. You're like, oh wow, that's actually like a really deep cut. And it's like you only know that deep cut if you know the book. Like you're a fan. You can say certain little things, but like it's and not to say that Exhibit is like a top tier rapper at any stretch, but like he's decent. But like the X-Men, catch me doing drills in the danger room. You had to have at least watched the show for that. You know the material to some degree. And this was 90, 97, 98. Like you know the material. This isn't the time where it's cool to be a nerd. Now it's a little bit broader. Now the information's out there. But like early 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, even early 2000s, the X-Men movies made it a little bit cooler. But even that, like it still wasn't cool to be a nerd. Once the Avengers hit, the Avengers made it cool to be a nerd. The Avengers made it cool. Because then you have like big, and it's like, it's the suits. Had they done the X-Men in like the comic book accurate suits or like sort of close, it might have been then. It might have been. But I don't think we had the technology necessary. I think we had to have an Iron Man. The Iron Man was the moment. Once you have the technology to do Iron Man and well.
You know what the crazy thing is? The Iron Man thing ended up spawning tons of like young inventors. Like, have you seen some of the people on like Instagram and stuff that they've created their own little Iron Man suits? There's the guy who basically invented micro jet propulsion that he was flying around with just 2 wrist rockets. Essentially, it's crazy. Like the stuff.
And that dude would have been 12, 13 when Iron Man came out.
And it's the same with like the iPad and Star Trek. It's like these ideas of, grand venture, and then this one little thing that like other people are like, man, that would be cool if I had this. Like this thing that could control everything at the touch of my fingers. And it's like, I love thinking about that stuff. That actually made me think of, do you know Run DMC, that he makes comic books?
Yeah. DMC has been doing comics for a long time.
Yeah, Daryl makes comics, DMC. It's hilarious. And it's like, that's awesome. But it's like, like it really is very prominent, especially in the hip hop community. But there's a lot of people that comics help them get through parts of life. And it's so, and then for maybe slightly younger people now, it would be like the animation versions of those. And for even younger people, it might be, like the MCU now. It's like these story arcs. And it's very cool that you can have that type of impact on someone by just sharing a story from your mind to paper. It's
100%. And not you know, and whether it be, you know, true events or whether it be completely fiction, it all still matters. Like I've been moved by stories of faraway worlds with characters that don't exist in the real world. But I also have 4 or 5 different graphic novels that are all based on the genocide of Bosnia and like the war, the Balkan wars in the 90s. Like I've read those too. Like Joe Kubert did Facts from Sarajevo, which is like award-winning, like all-time kind of story of real events. Like these are actual things that happened, like essentially like from the ground mid-war reports that he has like put pencil to paper with and like visualized.
That's literally the Lord of the Rings. Like the Lord of the Rings was like he wrote this based on his experience in was it World War II, I think, right? And so it's this idea that whether it's fantasy,
one.
Is it 1? Is he that old?
Yeah. Because there's the line on Falcon and the Winter Soldier where he says, "I've read The Hobbit in 1939 when it first came out."
Yeah. But yeah, so that's definitely a you're right on the fact that if what's it called, historical things are also very powerful, just because they are stories in themselves, but even like partial recounts essentially of them in fantasy can be an incredible storyteller or a medium in which to get the story from.
As long as the story is told in such a way that your main audience can get it, because there's a lot of people who are Star Wars fans in particular that don't get it.
So we definitely won't dive down the Star Wars rabbit hole.
No. I'm not one of those people in real life, and I was like, oh my god, you people are real. I thought you were only existing on the internet.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So where can we find you, or other people find you?
I am the Indie Hype. I'm Indie Hype Man on TikTok. That's kind of the main place. It's my full name without the accent marks on Instagram. It's the Dalibor Žujović. And then thecatalyst.digital. The magazine is quarterly. So this one just came out. So the next one, presumably sometime January, February, March. So this is going to be this quarter. So this is the second quarter's magazine. So June is the next issue. That gives me some time to actually put it together. and yeah, I'm constantly doing more stuff. I have more people involved in the magazine. I have people offering services. So like it's kind of getting cool. And honestly, I feel like I started like an indie comics magazine revolution, because like I did it, and after like 5 or 6 or 7 issues, somebody else was like, "Oh, we're doing like an indie comics magazine, indie creator magazine." I was like, "Oh, okay, I see you."
That's awesome.
Well, thanks for coming on, and
yeah, happy to do it, man. This is fantastic. I'd love to have you guys on my show as well.
Definitely.